What is up, gamers and hobbyists? Welcome to P&Q, and this is supposed to be the summer edition, the summer of 2026, and I was supposed to do it last month. I had planned on doing it last month, but so many things have been happening. Sorry, I've got a very painful finger, and I caught my finger and the nail bent right back, and it's just, it's so painful right now. Don't know why I'm telling you that, but that's okay. Not using the old doodad today. I've got some more bit of kit on the way for that sort of studio setup. So I'm back to like a lapel mic doing it. And yes, I'm sorry I've had to print out my questions again because I've been very unorganized, and I just, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Main thing is, this is P&Q. This is the question and answer series, right? Where you get to ask me questions about anything, really. It's usually hobby related, but like I say, it can be about anything, and I answer them. And I got a little bit of criticism for the last few times not putting who the questions were from, and I was getting lazy, I suppose. But that brings me nicely into organising myself, like with the printouts and stuff. Why? It's because of my life, my lifestyle, and my health. Not that I'm blaming anything on my health, but it's mostly my energy levels. Life does come into it, though. Work balance comes into it heavily. And for those of you that don't know, I've changed my job role recently. So that's been gearing up for a while. It's been heading towards a change for a while. It's taken a long time for the transfer to go through. So I'm working for the same company, but I am working in a different department now. And I've just completed my first week. So this is bank holiday, Easter weekend, and I gave myself an extra day to give myself an extra long weekend for that. Today is Saturday, but it's rainy outside. I was hoping it'd be a nice sunny day and I could do this and it could be like the start of the summer. But anyway, enough of that jibber jabber, and wow, nearly 3 minutes in already, and I'm still going on about stuff. Right, so I've got some questions which I asked for, and a couple of you have given me those. And I'm sorry, it's from so long ago I started asking for the questions, so do forgive me, all right? Because they are quite old, but this is proof, absolute proof, that I haven't forgotten about you. Okay, so I am going to say who the questions are from. And I will say this, a little caveat, they don't just come from YouTube, all right? They come from all over the shop. I've got a blank sheet of paper now, I don't know why. Printer must have picked it up an extra. All right, that's cool. Okay, so I've got my cup of coffee. So strap yourselves in, and I'm going to answer some questions from you guys. Let me just get a bit of a slightly better camera angle there. Just down slightly. Is that better? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for being here. It does mean a lot to me. That this series as well is still going, like my Chill with Pete's, this series is still going strong. I say strong, not like regular. It used to be every week. Then I think I did it every fortnight or monthly. And then seasonal, and now it's just special occasions. But who knows? Could come back again. We could pull it back again. We could revive this. So if you've got any burning questions you want to ask me about the hobby and stuff, my thoughts on things, my views on things, life, whatever, it doesn't matter. I will do my best to answer them for you. Okay, so this is a talky video for those of you that don't know. Okay, all right then. So I'm going to start from the top. I'm not going to do any specific order. No randomizer here. I used to have them randomized as well, but I can't be. I can't be bothered with that, but I haven't got the time. I've got to allocate myself time, precious, because I'm feeling okay enough to do this right now, energy level wise. My energy levels have been very low lately, and that's probably because of a lot of ups and downs in my life, particularly with work. But there we go. But enough of that. Let's get on with this. Some hopefully hobby questions. Let's have a look. Right, the first question I have comes from, and I'm just going to say the usernames. Okay, this is from Jamjar43, who says, "Hi Pete, great video. Was doing my Chaos Nights while watching this. What have you got planned for 2026 hobby-wise, and anything new for the channel?" Now this is interesting, Jamjar, because I remember picking this question up, and at the time when you asked, it was a while ago now, at the time when you asked it, the new stuff I had planned for this year was Marvel Crisis Protocol, and that's still a thing, but I'm taking a hiatus on that at the moment because I've done that. But what I am doing for it is, what I will say is, for Marvel Crisis Protocol, I've got Captain America here, the first one, for the first core box set. I am hopefully going to be doing tutorials for Marvel Crisis Protocol, amongst other things, not just Marvel Crisis Protocol, but I'm hoping to get tutorials up and running again as a thing. And so that was going to be my answer to you, Marvel Crisis Protocol. But I'm also now, as time has gone by, doing some more back to the old role-playing stuff. Not just fantasy role-playing, so all sorts of weird, wonderful creatures and characters, etc., but I'm also heavily back into Alien, the RPG game. So sci-fi stuff, and particularly things like, you know, these alien eggs and things I've got on the go here, and other alien monstrosities and various things. Characters for Alien, I've got an android there, and sort of half an android there, like he's broken. All these kinds of things. All right, so that's what at the moment, that is what I've got going on for 2026. I'm looking forward to the day I can say to you, I'm going to be working on some, some of my boxed board games like Legend of Drizzt or Wrath of Ashardalin or Castle Ravenloft. Those old like 4th edition D&D solo game things. Because they got nice miniatures in them. I think they got nice miniatures in them, and I'd like to be doing that. But at the moment, the tutorials for Marvel Crisis Protocol and some other stuff, perhaps I won't be doing tutorials on every single Marvel Crisis Protocol figure, but some of them, and yeah, some RPG stuff. I've got a nice sort of crocodile guy there to do, and I've got some dinosaurs and some like alien stuff. I've got Sigourney Weaver or Ripley and Jonesy. Yeah, just started. So that, hope that answers your question. And that's the first question out of the way. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Next question comes from you as well, sir. So Jamjar33 also asks, what are your goals for the first 6 months and year with your hobby? Floodgates are opening. My goal is to organise my room more, organise my hobby more, put things away, find things, because I've got stuff, I know I've got them. Can I find them? No. So I need to organise things more, pack some things away into like the boxes. Really useful boxes are awesome. But so I know where they are. If I want to put my hand on them, I know where they are. I mean, this is where I differ from, like, my dad used to be so organised with stuff. Anything you wanted, you could put his hand on it. It's just organised, It probably comes from his time in the Navy, because he's a very organised fellow, was my father. But yeah, that's my goal, to tidy and organise. And also get going with my RPG solo campaign. I just want to start playing them. I haven't even rolled up characters yet. It's just it's shameful. It's shameful. Anyway, but that's what I want to do. Good question though. And another one from you, sir. Right, Jamjar43 again asks, he says, HMV, the legendary shop where I bought vinyl and love the shop, lol. Catching up on your content. Question, can you tell us your best part of doing videos and why? That is a massive box of spice. 2 jars of chili flakes and 2 bags of hot chili. Great video. I think you're referring to my Marvel Crisis Protocol box set. That was a big, massive box on it. It's a real honking great box. It's like, yeah, massive, massive box. Actually, I don't know how I'm looking over there. It's behind me. It's on the floor behind me. I can't reach it. Even the first box set was big, but the second one even bigger. Best part about doing videos? The fact that I'm connecting with my audience, with you guys. That's the best part of doing videos, I think, for me. Because it's nice. It's all very well hobbying alone and doing solo gaming, but it's nice to know there are like-minded people out there in the world who have similar interests, feel the same way about stuff, you know, all sorts of good things. So catching up on content, I'm sure you've caught up with all that by now. Thank you for your questions. 3 questions. The first 3 questions were from JamJar43, so that's brilliant. Thank you, sir. Okay, so that's page 1 done. Right. Ooh. What have we got now? I haven't looked at a lot of these questions in a long time. It's been a while. Okay. Brushbeard87 asks, what's one painting technique you wish you'd learned earlier in your hobby journey? I'm going to say non-metallic metals, because that's kind of been only really end of last year, sort of November, December time, did I start even looking at it. Up until then, I'd always thought, well, I don't need it. You got metallic paints, right? So why bother, you know? But since doing it, I found it's quite fun to do. I don't know. Another part, sorry about that. Another part of the therapy of painting models. Sorry, I do apologise for yawning there. It's part of my condition. I can't help it. I really can't. But yeah, it's another part of the therapy, the focus, and yeah, non-metallic metals. I'm not brilliant at it, but I'm enjoying learning, so I'm still learning that. But I wish I'd started learning that a lot earlier. Definitely. Okay, any others? Tiny Tabletop Tina, what's she saying? Do you prefer speed painting armies or taking your time on character models? Overall, I think I prefer taking my time on character models. That said, there is something to be said for getting a squad or whatever of soldiers for whatever era or game ready as quick time as possible, because it just looks great on the tabletop or even on the bench as you painted them. But I would say character models is my absolute favourite and best when I'm not doing a tutorial and no one's watching me. I've got no pressure to try and perform well. I'm just painting for myself and it feels great. It really does. All right, Resin Rookie is next. I think that's the first time you ever sent me a question. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're male or female, but Resin Rookie says, have you ever completely ruined a miniature, and if so, how did you fix it? Yeah, definitely. I ruined a Rhino tank for Warhammer. It was the side door. The glue went everywhere. It started to melt the plastic a little bit, the plastic glue. And in the end, I thought, do you know what? I tried fixing it, cleaning it up, but it just looked a mess. couldn't get rid of it. Painting around, lost some of the detail as well, and I thought, so what did I use? I used something from my wife's where she does her nails. So acrylic nails she used to do years ago, and she uses stuff that really cuts into the melts through the plastic, and I turned it into a terrain piece. A bombed, exploded outside of a rhino. I don't have it anymore, I don't think. I think I gave it away to someone. But yeah, so I wasn't able to fix it exactly, but I turned it into some terrain, so that's what I did. What's that stuff they use? I can't think of the name of it now. It really does melt plastic. It just destroys it, basically. I can't think of the name of it. Is it isopropyl? I'm not sure. Acetone. I knew it would come to me. Acetone. That stuff, if you leave the lid off, it evaporates. Yeah, I just got a load of that, pour over it. It basically ate a hole through the side of that rhino. Yeah, and I was able to it looked kind of cool, I'll be honest. And the person I gave it away to didn't have anything like that as terrain. They didn't even hadn't considered doing that sort of thing as a terrain piece or an objective marker or whatever. And they thought it was quite cool as well. So I was happy to help pass on my mistake to make someone else's terrain. Okay, what have we got here? Dice Goblin UK says, what's your favourite skirmish game for quick solo sessions? Ooh. Wow. I don't actually know. And I don't know whether you're talking RPG or tabletop wargaming. If you're talking tabletop wargaming, I'd say my favourite skirmish game would be Bolt Action. At the moment, I haven't tried scaling back Warhammer to sort of kill team level or anything. I've never played Mordheim. Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't even think I've seen this question. It must have done. It's printed out, so it must have done. For role playing, I like Call of Cthulhu. You can get solo expansion or solo, what do they call them, modules for that. And you can play solo for Call of Cthulhu, so I like that. But to be honest, any depends what mood's taking me at the time, what role playing I want to be involved in at the time, whether that's sci-fi or fantasy, doesn't really matter. I can, and it would take another video to go into how to turn any game. Really, you can turn any game into solo, even Aliens, and in the future, I will cover that. I did with Aliens, what with the personal agendas thing that you got going on. Anybody that plays Aliens knows that it did take me many years to kind of come up with how am I going to get around that. But you can, and I'll cover that in the future perhaps. But yeah, so Bolt Action for a tabletop game. I haven't played Lord of the Rings yet or The Hobbit tabletop game, but I hear that makes a good skirmish game. And maybe we'll see in the future for that. And that's definitely not this year. That's future. That'll be another year, next year or the year after or whenever. But yeah, thank you for your question. Thank you. Old School Wargamer. Do you think modern rule sets are getting too complicated, or is that part of the fun? I think, subjective this is, don't forget, this is just my views. I think they're getting too complicated, and I don't find complicated rule sets fun at all. In fact, I find if you strip them back, they're more fun. For instance, I love D&D. I've always loved D&D. Probably because it's what got me started in role-playing in general, you know. But it got far too complicated for its own good. I'm more of a Castles and Crusades fan these days. I'm getting into that now because it's more like old school D&D as I remember it, and the simpler it is, the better, I think. So I don't find that fun. Plastic Crusader says, if you could only play one war game for the next year, which one would it be and why? I could play any game for just a year. It'd probably be Warhammer, because by the end of the year, it'd be all out of date anyway, and that'd be it all over. Be a new edition out, probably. So, yeah, I'd say Warhammer. Okay, Lone Quest Larry. How do you keep solo RPG sessions feeling fresh and unpredictable? Ooh, well, unpredictable. By introducing conflict. Otherwise, you're not doing anything. You're not going anywhere. When you're solo gaming, you've got to have conflict, threats. It's got to be almost like a bit of a car chase. You can't really have too much of a pause in your game when you're solo gaming. Yeah, it's gonna be like a car chase in a movie almost. So you've got to have pretty much conflict all the time, and this was explained far better by Me, Myself and Die, quite a big name in the world of solo RPGing. So you've got to have conflict, like man versus environment, and man versus himself, I think was how he put it. So like man versus man, you're being, I don't know, chased, hunted down by bounty hunters, whatever. Man versus the environment, you're in a storm, nature, whatever, earthquake, flash flood. Man versus himself, you could be ill, poisoned, that kind of thing. You know, you've got to work out using solo rule sets, etc., whatever you use or whatever tools you use to get around that. Yeah, so that's how to keep it interesting. Well, it is for me anyway. Unpredictable, fresh and unpredictable, I think was how you put it. Right, there we go. Okay, next. Storyforge Sam. Do you ever use AI tools, random tables or oracles to generate story twists? Not anymore. I have done. And that's not to say I won't again in the future, but I've used ChatGPT 5, I think it is, the latest one, whatever the latest one is, to actually, or was it 4? I can't remember now. It actually ran a game of Werewolf for me. Well, it was a combination of Werewolf and Vampire, the Vampire the Masquerade. I played it solo. ChatGPT was the storyteller or the GM, whatever you want to call that person. It ran the game for me, and it was very fun. I have to say, it was very fun. And I was up all night, through into the earliest hours of the morning. I think I was playing till about 3 o'clock in the morning, this game, and it was very, very, very good. It's going to sound like a complaint, but it almost felt too like playing with other people, if you know what I mean. I like playing solo. Well, I know I'm playing solo. It's a different ball game altogether. Playing solo feels completely different to playing in a group of people around a table. But I have to say, using the AI, it felt more like playing in a group, because it's able to take on the roles of other characters and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a different feel. But I enjoyed it immensely. It was very, very, very enjoyable. But I like the solo tools, tables, and ways of adapting, because that uses my brain better, I think, than relying on an AI. So I prefer to use my brain, like doing a crossword, I suppose, or something. Keep the brain activated and occupied, and use it or lose it kind of thing. So, but I have done, and it's been very, very enjoyable. I reckon it would do a fantastic job with D&D, for instance, or a role-playing game in a fantasy setting. I think it would be brilliant. I really do. Hex Crawl Hermit, what are you asking? What's your go-to system for running a narrative-heavy solo campaign? I don't have a go-to system, so I don't. No, I haven't got one. Sorry. Literally, I can't even say, but it would most likely be any system is fine. You can use any system, and I will use any system. For me personally, I suppose, without saying this one or that one, generalistically, rules light. More simplistic, more streamlined rule sets, better for me. So I am going to have a go at a D&D solo campaign. I think it might work okay. But I prefer rules light games for it. Hope that answers your question. I forgot now. Foam Core Fanatic. Oh, what a great game! What a great name that is. Foam Core Fanatic. I don't think I've ever come across you before. All right. Says, what's your favourite cheap material for scratch building terrain? I don't do a lot of that, but it always used to be cardboard buildings and things, and I've built tents and things with cardboard and tissue paper and PVA. Yeah, you could do some good stuff with cardboard, I think. PVA really makes it a bit more solid and, and better for painting, etc. So I'm going to say cardboard. I have another sip of coffee here. Got a couple of terrainy type questions here. I must have done a video or said something about terrain in one of my videos. Anyway, Scatter Terrain Steve. Like it. How do you store all your terrain without it taking over your entire house? I give it away. It gets to a certain point, and I sometimes give it away to a club or whatever. I have to, because I just don't have the room. Yeah, I give it away. Mini Mason Mike. What's it with these alliterations? Mini Mason Mike. What's one terrain piece you're most proud of making? I entered a competition many, many moons ago for Mr. Edic Beer 40k Necrons channel. He did a circle terrain piece. And although I didn't win the competition, I made this like ruined building with a pipe coming out with like goo coming out of it, like a sewage system, and it blown off part of what was supposed to be like a building with like all computers in it and stuff. And I was just really proud of that. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I was super proud of that. I think that might have been something I give away, or if I come across it, I'll dig it out sometime. But I think I've got a sneaking suspicion that's one of the things I gave away. But I was very, very proud of that. You go back in my archives, you'll find it somewhere. Well, I'll forget next. Wargame Watcher. What inspired you to start Mini Warzone in the first place? Oh, that, my friend, is a tale. I haven't spoken about that for a long time, so maybe I should. Good question. It was about 15 years ago I got diagnosed with having multiple sclerosis, and I went through a period, like a transition period of trying to get my head around coping with this condition, how it would change my life, which it has done drastically, I have to say. But I've always kind of kept on top of it mentally for the most part, apart from the early days. I had a few weeks of being pretty depressed, pretty down about it. But, for the most part now, I meet each challenge head on and deal with it as best I can. Right, anyway, enough of that. I decided that I wanted to get. I got retired off from my job at the time from Royal Mail. They called it medical retirement. I mean, I wasn't ready to go, and I certainly could have done without it because you've got bills to pay, right? Retirement doesn't. They gave me a payout, but that doesn't last long. Anyway, I had a load of time on my hands. I thought I'll get back into writing. Something I always wanted to do when I was a kid, write a book. So I started writing a book, and I did. And I was writing a fantasy story. Never finished it. That's irrelevant. I started writing a fantasy story, and I got to a point in the story where a big fight was occurring between werewolves, vampires, and all sorts of things, and humans. It was set in an area of trees, like a woodland area, but there was also some grassy lands as well, things like that. And I was having trouble. I was kept mixing up writing the fight scene. I wanted it to be quite immersive for the reader. For those of you that don't know, I mean, I went to university. I've studied literature and the English language, and I considered myself to be quite a good writer. I'm not as good as my wife. She is a writer. She's written many books now, and she's really, really good. She does naturally what it took me years to learn in terms of writing. We've both certainly evolved in that I've kind of evolved more to like an editorial type role with writing, and she just continued writing, narrative writing, and so on. Anyway, I got to this. I was really struggling to write this fight scene because I couldn't visualize where everybody was in relation to each other, and I kept getting it mixed up. Like, was he behind the tree? No, he was behind the rock, coming around the other side. And I was like, well, do you know what? I tried drawing it out, and I thought, I still can't really get my head around it. I'm going to build it as a model, like a little diorama type thing. I didn't even know what that was called back then. And I'm going to get some little figurines and put them around, and then move them around as I'm writing the story, and I can exactly visualize what's going on in the story. All right, good idea, yes. So I got some materials, got some wood, and stuff. But then I thought, I need trees, don't I, to make trees, or get some trees. Where do I get that from? And I don't know. I ended up anyway. I went into the city centre where I lived in Plymouth at the time. I had to have an eyesight test, I think it was. My wife did as well. We both went in there. And our appointments are scheduled at different times. And basically, I had a couple of hours to kill in between appointments before I met up with my wife again. And I was walking around, and I happened to walk past Games Workshop, the window, and I thought, God, those models look amazing. I've done that many times before. As a kid, look in the window and go, oh wow, that is some really good paint art jobs there on those dwarves or whatever it was. It was 40k in that, but I did notice. I thought, it looks like they sell terrain packs in there. I might be able to get some terrain kind of ready built, and that might make things go a bit smoother. So I went in, didn't I? The shop was empty. The guy running it, the manager, don't remember his name. Hey, glasses. Sorry if you're watching, I don't remember your name. He saw me looking up, and I was looking at some trees, and he asked me what I was after. I said, I need some trees and some green paint. I'll sort of paint the grass and and flock. Well, I didn't even know what it was called, so I can make this thing, hills. And I told him exactly what it was for, and he seemed really interested. And he said, he just kind of nodded. In the middle of the shop, we had a load of demo tables set up. And they have, don't they, in the Games Workshop they had, I think they still do, like a game set up like with whatever the latest box set is at the time to introduce players into the game. Anyway, he just nodded towards it and said, do you play? I said, no, never played. I said, I like the models though, they look amazing, they really do. And he just casually, I think he was good, a good sales pitch, you know, he's like, he just casually went, fancy a game? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you know, he said, well, I could run you through a game, how to play it, you know, you play me. I thought, well, you know, I've always fancied learning, seeing what it was all about. It looked like people were having fun. I thought, well, there's no one around, no one watching. I thought, yeah, why not? So we played a game of, it was the Dark Vengeance box set scenario that they had set up there. I think it was 6th edition Warhammer, I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, we played this game. I won, which of course, I'm sure he allowed me to win. He's not going to trash me on my very first game, is he? Otherwise, I ain't going to bother. You know, but I'm not that sort of person anyway, but a lot of people might be, I guess. But that doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Rolling dice, moving figures around, and I felt like a kid again, you know, like blam, 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 you know, wow, wow, you know, moving all these little toys around. It's incredible scenery, and it's like, I really started enjoying it. I was like, I dig this. This is good. I think I've rambled on long enough here now, but suffice to say, I left that shop with more than a pot of green paint and some trees and flock. I left with rule books, models, glues, paintbrushes, you name it, I had it there. It's like, and not only that, I went to another, I was walking around, I had it all in bags. I went to another gaming store, which was nowhere near at the time, Games Workshop. It was a different part of town further up. And I went in there and I bought more. I bought myself a paint station and book on how to paint Citadel miniatures. I've still got, I love that book. One that comes with a DVD where it's got like Duncan Rhodes showing you how to paint and glue and things. Real basic stuff. It was amazing. Anyway, I've gone ahead a little bit. Whilst I was in the Games Workshop store, he said, best way to learn this game, because he said, because it is complicated, you know, you're going to learn it in one go. There's plenty of, he said, you know YouTube? I said, yeah. He said, plenty of channels out there on YouTube will show you how to play the game. You got these things called bat reps, battle reports. They play games. It's fun to watch. You can learn the rules as you go. Not only that, there's channels show you how to paint the models, how to do this, how to do that. And I thought, that's amazing. So I got home. You know, I did all my stuff in town, met up with my wife, made my excuses. Whoops, I've done a thing. I started watching that DVD. Wow, I was like, this is great. I had a little miniature portable DVD player at the time. I was playing that whilst trying to paint these miniatures, like alongside, like, all right, how do I do this? How do, you know, right, okay, he's doing that. And it was all making sense. And my stuff, my first time proper paint jobs, they were starting to look quite good, I thought, you know. I was chuffed to bits with them. And I was really happy. But then I started watching these other YouTube channels that I was recommended. Mini War Gaming was one of them. And there was one called Beasts of War at the time. I think they're called On Tabletop now. But anyway, I started watching these channels and other people. And I thought, do you know what? That looks fun as well. I said to my wife, my wife asked me one day, it was getting near Christmas, she said, what do you want for Christmas? You know, what would you like? You know, we discussed it, and I said, I wouldn't mind some sort of recording device, camera, that I can use to make my channel. She said, okay, leave that with me, blah, blah, blah. In the meantime, I'd bought myself a really, really cheap NAF camcorder and started making videos, and I was able to start recording on my MacBook just from the webcam itself, to doing real basic videos there. So the first videos you see on my channel are like recorded on my MacBook. But as time went by, I got my camera and I started gradually getting better equipment, lighting, recording sound, and things just took off. I started doing these Q&As, these chill repeats, where I've just got a cup of coffee, similar to this, just a cup of coffee, chilling out, sitting back. Because there were days I was too poorly to be able to do any hobby as such, but I could sit in bed, put my Mac on, and just talk to the camera about how enthused I was about the hobby. So that's really how I started my channel. And mini wargaming, it's miniature wargaming. So that's what I thought mini wargaming was all about. So I thought, well, that's a good name. So what about mini warzone? Yeah, mini warzone. It's a war zone, whether that's fantasy or sci-fi, it doesn't matter, you know. So that is what inspired me to do my channel. That's a bloody long answer to your question. I hope I haven't bored the pants off you. What time have we got here? Oh my gosh, 41 minutes. I'm sorry, but it's been a while. Sometimes people forget, or different audiences, they want to know what inspired me to start my YouTube channel, and that was it. To help me with my hobby, keep my focus. It's another part of my hobby. Right, Tabletop Trekker says, do you script your videos or just talk naturally as you go? I just talk naturally as I go. I've done about maybe a handful, literally count on one hand, scripted videos. I'd like to do a few more sort of semi-scripted, bullet pointy ones. I mean, I do have some with bullet points. Do more of those, but for the most part, I'm just talking off the cuff. Paint Pot Panda. Wow, what a name. What kind of content would you love to make if time wasn't an issue? What kind of content would you love to make if time wasn't an issue? That's a strange question. If time wasn't an issue, well, I would have a more immersive role-playing series, a bit like my role-playing series The Dwarves of Fangorn, which you can see on my home screen if you scroll down, where I kind of try to emulate Me, Myself and Die on his first series of what he did on that channel. It really inspired me and I wanted to do the same thing, but then I got COVID and I got ill. I think I'd try and do something more like that if I had the time. More camera angles, make things look really cool, different games, playing solo though. And I'd like to do more exploratory videos outdoors. Just nature, I just love it. Being outside in life and nature, that kind of thing, you know? So yeah, thank you. Good question. Captain Cardboard. If your minis could talk, which one would complain the most about how you treat it? I don't treat them anyway, really. I don't know how to answer that. I'm sorry, I really don't know how to answer that. I've never mistreated, probably that rhino, if it had a personality, the one I was talking about earlier. That was my coffee gone. I know I've gone on too long now. Glue on my fingers says, how many times per week do you super glue yourself to something you weren't supposed to? Be honest. Not that often. The reason is I don't have much time to hobby at the moment. And when I do, I try to steer as far away from super glue as I possibly can, because yes, nearly every time I use super glue, I glue my fingers together somewhere. I glued my lips together a little bit once. I had some super glue on my tongue once. I'm not the greatest when it comes to super glue. Okay. Okay. Is that your username? Yeah. Someone called Not Another Backlog. That's a strange one. Not Another Backlog says, is it still a pile of shame if you accepted it as part of your personality? Well, I've talked about this off and on for years. I don't call it a pile of shame or a shelf of shame or anything like that. Cupboard of shame, what do you call it? I call it a pile of future joy. It's my golden opportunity. It's my retirement shelf. When I retire, I get to do all that wonderful, wonderful stuff. So it is part of me. I've accepted it. Okay. Nebula Nomad says, if you could mash 2 war games together into one weird hybrid system, which ones would you pick and why? 2 war games together. Yeah. It already exists there, that's the problem. Because I was going to say Bolt Action and Warhammer, and that's kind of what Conflict 47 is all about. Now, I was going to get into that, but I figure that's just another financial drain that I don't need right now. I don't need it. I've got loads of stuff on the go, but yeah, that kind of alternative World War setting, but with some technology. Yeah, so that would be it. Brickhouse Brian, what's the strangest object you've ever used as terrain? A Pringles tube. Honestly, don't ask me why. I can't remember what it was, but I remember using it years ago for something. I don't know what it was supposed to represent. What's been done already? Some of these have been printed twice. I don't know why. No, that's already been done. Right. Miniature Marauder. No, not Miniature Marauder. What am I talking about? Sorry, I apologise. Sorry. Marauder M. Apologies. How do you balance narrative freedom from mechanical fairness when running solo campaigns? Do you ever override the rules for the sake of the story? Yes, damn right. I override the rules for any game for the sake of my fun that I'm having. If it starts being like, oh, no, I don't want that, then it doesn't happen. Yeah. I don't really fudge dice rolls. I just don't. But if I was that way inclined, it wouldn't bother me. I would do that I'd absolutely do that if I found it fun. I just don't find that fun. But yeah, I can make allowances for things, override things. It's just me playing, so who's to complain? Iron Ledger says, what's your philosophy on scale creep in modern miniatures? Do you think it affects immersion, or is it part of the hobby's evolution? Oh, that's a little bit more in depth, isn't it? I wish they wouldn't do scale creep. I wish they just come out and say, right, new line of miniatures, it's such and such a scale now. You can play Warhammer 28mm, or you can play at 35mm. Whatever you want. They could introduce different lines of miniatures then. It's a business market for you all there. But gradually doing it, I think that's a bit crap. And I'm keeping these brief as I can because I'm aware that I've been going on a long time. Hex and Hammer says, when you build a solo RPG session, do you start with a character concept, a world idea, or a conflict, and why that order? It can vary. Sometimes I start with a character. I just want to play as a certain character in a world. Other times I've had dreams. I've had a dream, like vivid dream about like a scenario, and it's I had a dream once about a gladiatorial, waking up in like a gladiator pit, like in the cells. Probably because I was watching Spartacus heavily at the time, but I've had a video of a dream about that and thought, oh, that'd make a good concept. Conflict. It can be any. I could write all these things down and just roll a dice, say, right, what do I want to start with? Some tools for solo games, right? They allow you, they give you little tools and tables. If you just can't be bothered to think of these things and it just comes up for you, it's like real lazy gaming, I know, but it can be fun. But other times I want to build a world, you know. Right, Deep Cut Dave says, how do you approach painting when you're trying to convey mood or theme rather than just technique? Oh, why are you asking me this? I don't know. I just paint. I just paint how I want to. You know. I don't know. All right. I approach it as I paint. I paint a miniature however I want to paint it, and I don't care what's expected of it. What's the norm? So I just paint how I want. If it makes me happy, so be it. Right, Sarah Wargames says, how do you stay motivated in the hobby during burnout phases, especially when you're also creating content? The truth of the matter is, I find it difficult. I don't really stay motivated if I'm burnt out. Burnout phases are not caused by hobbying for me, they're caused by work. And I lose motivation for the simplest of things. Making tea, making a cup of tea. I can just lose motivation for anything. Going out, going for a walk. That's just energy. It comes down to energy. Old Guard Tom says, do you think the miniature wargaming community is becoming more accessible to newcomers? Or is there still a barrier to entry? I think it's becoming more accessible to newcomers because there's such a plentiful bounty of like starter box sets for any game now. YouTube is just a plethora of content, and you're spoilt for choice basically. I mean, it's not just YouTube. We've got all kinds of platforms out there. YouTube, Rumble, whatever. It's just this loads of stuff. Yep. So I think it's becoming more accessible. Magazines, they're becoming more digitized, or they're pushing for that, but I still prefer a magazine I can hold in my hand. Gaming's everywhere these days, which is great, and a lot of video games are based on tabletop games, so yeah, okay. Resin Rehab, love that name. Oh, if I'd have stolen that, if I'd have thought of that. Resin Rehab, love it. What's one thing you wish you'd known before starting a hobby channel? How expensive it was all going to be for me, I suppose. Not that it's expensive compared to other hobbies, because compared to other hobbies, golf, for example, it's relatively cheap. But I just wished I'd known. Wouldn't have stopped me. No, but I just would like to have known. Yeah, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Tabletop Traveller, how do you decide which projects to prioritise when you have multiple ideas competing for your time? I just do it whatever I can, whenever I can. That is it. That's how I decide. Last one. And I'm really, really sorry for coming up to the hour. I'm so sorry. It's not usually this long, but it's been a while. Right, Legend on the Road, and I know exactly who this is. Yes, not a YouTuber, let's just say that. Legend on the Road. Hi Pete, I don't have a question that's related to your current hobby, but I wanted to ask you about your bass guitar tuning in the band. I know that you used non-standard tunings, but I can't remember what. I think we were all just concerned with our own sound back then. Can you please shed any light on this, pal? Yeah, of course I can. Obviously, it was in one of my former bands. My former bandmates, aren't you? Aren't you, sir? Right, yeah. I had non-standard tunings. And from what I've seen, you're still in the music scene. And you're trying to emulate that sound we had, the bass sound. Well, our sound was kind of unique because we were using standard tuning for main rhythm and lead, and lower tuning for bass, which was low. I know you guys were tuned to standard. I tuned my bass down though. I know a couple of songs you used to drop D your tunings, so instead of the E string on the top was tuned down to D. I know that, but I tuned my 4-string bass down to the first 4 strings of a 5-string bass guitar. So instead of E A D G, it was B E A D. Yeah. I always wanted the 5-string bass anyway, and I got them eventually. But until I could afford that, I was just tuning that down a bit because, let's be honest, our music at the time wasn't very high. It wasn't very high pitched for the bass end. It was meaty, it was bassy, so I down tuned it, and it worked. It worked a treat, especially with those Yamaha basses I used to use, the RBX ones. And I loved the tuning because it made the strings so easy to bend the notes on. I mean, it was almost like playing lead guitar on bass at some points. It just flowed, man. It really flowed. But yeah, to answer your question and what the information you need is tune that bass down to B-E-A-D, son, and you will hear right away that you'll be like, yep, that's the sound, and play with that. Okay, and that's all I've got time for. But this has been super, super fun doing this P&Q session for you all, and I hope that we can have another one in the future. I really, really do, because I love connecting with people. It's been incredible. This whole YouTube channel has been such a journey for me. It's just amazing. I've loved it. Loved every minute of it, and every minute of my hobby keeps me going. It really keeps me going. But yeah, so enough waffle, Pete. Come on, let's go. And thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, you're a superstar. You get a gold star, my friend. Please subscribe. If you're not, I'm going to do that. I'm doing the pitch, okay? I'm doing the pitch. Subscribe. Make sure you're a subscriber. Share it if you can. Check out Patreon if you want. If not, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just, keep the faith. There will be other videos. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate you very, very much. There's no point doing this without you guys. And thank you. And I'll see you guys on another video. If you want to put questions here on this video, I will keep them. I have no idea when I'll get around to answering them, but I will, I promise you, get around to answering them. Maybe another point in the summer. I don't know. One day in the future, I'd like to bring it back to weekly again or something. That would be fantastic. It's definitely monthly, but I'd like to do that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget, all brushes lead to all. I'll see you on another video. Bye for now. Bye bye.